Hello and welcome to the News at 10 on NTA News 24. We are reaching you live from the nation's capital city, Abuja. I'm Dennis Adigunloye. Let's bring you the headlines.
We remain firmly committed to the security of life, property and investment nationwide.
2022 budget. President Buhari presents 16.93 trillion naira financial plan for improved living conditions of Nigerians.
That our nation is facing a big challenge of insecurity and threat to national unity.
African Union peer review mission commends Nigeria for setting pace in good governance and socio-economic developments on the African continent.
Nigeria's commitment in promoting good governance, fostering development and sustainable economic growth.
Media organizations urge to leverage on promoting peace and national cohesion. All right, we'll begin with Mr. President's budget proposal, which was at 16.39 trillion naira, a budget of economic growth and sustainability, which was proposed for expenditure by the federal government for the 2022 fiscal year. President Muhammadu Buhari, while presenting the appropriations bill before a joint session of the National Assembly, described it as crucial in his administration's efforts at ensuring the completion of critical projects, which, when put to use, will improve the general living conditions of Nigerians. State House correspondent Adam Musamba reports on the first gender-responsive budgeting in the nation's history.
It was a warm and befitting welcome for President Muhammadu Buhari in the hallowed chamber of the National Assembly as he formally presents the 2022 Appropriations Bill for consideration and approval. The budget proposal, the last expected to be fully implemented by this administration, is predicated on conservative oil price benchmark of $57 per barrel, oil production estimate of 1.88 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 410 naira 15 kobo to $1, a projected GDP growth rate of 4.2%, as well as an inflation rate of 13%. The budget is made up of a capital expenditure of 5.35 trillion naira, non-debt recurrent cost of 6.85 trillion naira, personnel cost of 4.11 trillion naira, 3.61 trillion naira for debt service, and a sinking fund of 292.71 billion naira.
Our target over the medium term is to grow our revenue to GDP ratio from about 8% currently to 15% by 2025. At that level of revenue, the debt service to revenue ratio will cease to be worrying. Put simply, we do not have a debt sustainability problem, but a revenue challenge which we are determined to tackle.
As the Buhari presidency proposes, the 2022 budget is expected to be funded by 10.13 trillion naira oil, non-oil and other revenues, while a deficit of 6.26 trillion naira will be financed by new borrowings, privatization process and drawdowns on loans secured for specific development projects.
Some have expressed concern over our resort to borrowing to finance our fiscal gaps. They are right to be concerned. However, we believe that the debt level of the federal government is still within sustainable limits. Borrowing at specific strategic projects and can be verified publicly. Very importantly, we have endeavored to use the loans to finance critical development projects and programs aimed at improving our economic environment and ensuring effective delivery of public services to our people.
Although details on the budgetary allocation to MDAs are yet to be made public, President Buhari gave a hint that defense and internal security will continue to be accorded his administration's top priority.
We remain firmly committed to the security of life, property, and investment nationwide. We will continue to ensure that our gallant men and women in the armed forces, police, and paramilitary units are properly equipped and well motivated. The 2022 budget is also the first in our history where MDAs were clearly advised on gender-responsive budgeting. These are part of critical steps in our efforts to distribute resources fairly and reach vulnerable groups in our society.
President Buhari used the opportunity to appreciate the immense patriotic and collaborative support of the National Assembly to the government efforts at delivering socio-economic development and democracy dividends to Nigerians.
I wish to assure you of the strong commitment of the executive to strengthen the relationship with the National Assembly. Nigeria is currently emerging from a very difficult economic challenge. We must continue to cooperate and ensure that our actions are aimed at accelerating the pace of economic recovery so that we can achieve economic prosperity and deliver on our promises to Nigerian people.
The president once again thanked the lawmakers for the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act and hoped that the implementation of the new law will boost confidence in the nation's economy and attract substantial investments in the sector. From the National Assembly, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And the National Assembly says it will keep the promise of ensuring the passage of the 2022 Appropriations Bill before the end of the year to sustain the January to December budget cycle. During the budget presentation, the leadership commended the presidents for submitting the proposal in good time. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The 2021 budget was laid on the 8th of October. That of 2022 came a day earlier. This trajectory enables full implementation of budgets like that of 2022, which since the Fourth Republic made history as the first to be fully implemented, bringing about economic growth despite recession to the benefit of citizens.
Unlike many other countries, Nigeria was able to come out of the recession due to the ability of this administration to deploy the resources to support the economy. Mr. President, the second quarter GDP report released by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, Nigeria's gross domestic product GDP increased by 5.01% in the second quarter of 2021. The strongest growth since first quarter of 2014 is a trajectory that we need to sustain.
Ensuring greater fidelity to the letter and spirit of our appropriation laws have led to the measurable improvements in public infrastructure, access to education and housing, healthcare, and transportation, among other things.
The National Assembly leadership called attention on the need to put more efforts on key areas for improvements.
The 2021 budget and indeed the 2020 budget provided for significant infrastructure development across the country. It is imperative that we prioritize the completion of ongoing projects on the development of infrastructure in our country. The 2022 budget should target at completion and consolidation of the projects already started.
Today, innovations in technology, the changing nature of global trade, the challenges of cross-border insecurity, and the increasing interdependence of nations, each and together, continue to present challenges we must overcome and opportunities we must embrace.
Ministries, departments, and agencies of government were also issued words of warning to sustain achievements so far recorded.
Recent position taken by the legislature and the executive arms of government to insist on zero allocation to MDS that failed to remit their revenues for the 2022 appropriation. This saw an increase in the contribution of MDS by over 400 billion. It is my view that MDS can contribute to the Federation account much more than that.
We will demand a thorough accounting for the funds previously appropriated, disbursed, and expended. And we will take steps to hold to account those who fail to provide the records we need to make informed decisions on the appropriation bill.
The National Assembly will in the coming weeks be engaged in the scrutiny of the proposal to ensure the delivery of a near-perfect document. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Nigerians and members of the National Assembly have described the 2022 budget proposal by President Muhammadu Buhari as a budget that will further consolidate on the gains recorded in the country. Dayo Ogunshola reports.
Their reactions centered on specific issues contained in the budget, such as security, infrastructure, revenue generation, and gender issues.
We have to look at it, study very well, then we can make an informed comment about what has been presented.
With the e-custom that is coming, we should be able to make close to 3 trillion. So that's why the president said it's going to be part of those sectors that will drive the economy.
A number of new capital projects are going to be implemented. There's also the need to increase spending in some sectors, of our economy. If you take, for instance, humanitarian affairs.
This is first time that the gender issues are being included in the budget of Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I'm excited because what it simply means is that this president have decided to walk the talk.
So we'll make sure we appropriate a lot of money for ongoing critical projects, such as Second Niger Bridge, Lagos-Ibadan, Kano Abuja roads, as well as Kano Maiduguri projects.
What the president has laid, it gives us some hope that next year will be better than this year.
Other Nigerians also have their inputs.
The moment those projects are completed and the more investments are done in the oil and gas sector, we will now begin to reap the dividends.
Funding and implementation, you find that Nigerians will have a better life and there would indeed be security and prosperity in the nation.
The lawmakers are optimistic the ministries, departments, and agencies of government will help in fast-tracking legislative work on the budget proposal. From the National Assembly, Dayo Ogunshola, NTA News.
So the news now, and President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to Governor Willie Obiano, restating his unshakable resolve towards ensuring that the forthcoming Anambra governorship election is not only peaceful, but also free, fair and credible. State House correspondent Adam Osama reports that discussions at the closed-door engagements also centered on the recent threat to impose a state of emergency in the state should the security situation worsen.
Governor Willie Obiano's visit to President Muhammadu Buhari, the first since October 2020, is coming barely 24 hours after the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, made public that no possibility is ruled out by the federal government, including the imposition of a state of emergency in Anambra State towards ensuring that the November 6th governorship election is conducted as scheduled and peacefully too. After the closed-door engagement with the president, the governor told journalists that he is convinced that the justice minister's assertion has nothing to do with the Nigerian leader.
Because less than 15 people were killed in Anambra in 2 weeks, is that the reason for somebody to call for a state of emergency? That's a very unfortunate comment by Malami. I also reported that to the president, and the president didn't suggest that. President is firm. He wants a peaceful election in Anambra State. He wants a free and fair election in Anambra State. That's the president for you. He reassured one more time that election will hold in Anambra State, and that election will be free and fair. We're getting more equipment, more boots on ground, and I believe in less than 2 weeks, all these things will be over. We'll overwhelm and conquer all these miscreants that came from other states nearby to come and harass Anambra.
Governor Willie Obiano said Anambra State, regarded as the light of the nation, cannot thank President Buhari enough for improved federal presence in critical economic sectors.
I thanked Mr. President for completing one segment of Umunya to Oka Road. And I pleaded with him to also commence work on the other segment so that the road will be fully done. You know, I also thanked him for making Anambra an oil-producing state with 15 wells. You know, commended him for the support he's given to my administration all these years. You know, as you guys know, by March 17, it will be all over, and I would have finished my second term. You know, I also commended Mr. President for his forthrightness.
The governor said he is not worried that even as the governorship election draws near, members of his party, Abuja, in the State Assembly continue to defect to the APC.
Let me tell you, it's a ploy. Those people that went to APC now, they went to collect money. They're still Abuja. They are giving us information on what is happening in the APC camp.
President Buhari also granted audience to the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum and governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, and his Kebbi State counterpart, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, who is also the chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum. Details of their discussions held behind closed doors were not disclosed. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24. Stay with us, more reports after this break. Thanks for remaining with us. Let's return briefly to the National Assembly as the Senate has confirmed the nomination of 4 persons for appointments as chairman, chief executive and executive directors for the board of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. This followed the consideration of the reports of the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, which screened the nominees. The committee described the nominees as knowledgeable persons qualified for the positions.
Idari Ogogo Ogan, Chairman, Farouk A. Ahmed, Chief Executive, Abiodun Adeneji, Executive Director, Finance and Accounts, Obogu Oka, Executive Director, Distribution Systems, Storage and Retail Infrastructure. The nominees responded to the questions asked in factual and convincing manner. They exhibited a high-level understanding of the entire petroleum value chain.
And time is of essence, and this is an authority that will lay a foundation. And therefore, they need to work hard. They need to be selfless. What they do is going to impact very significantly on the reform of the petroleum industry in Nigeria.
Now, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has appealed to media organizations to leverage on their power to promote peace and national cohesion. He made the appeal in Kano at the 75th General Assembly and 20th Annual General Meeting of the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Bonn. Abdullahi Mustafa reports.
This is an event that holds annually. It provides a platform for stakeholders in the Nigerian broadcast media to take stock of successes and challenges in the industry's operations.
We want to sanitize the broadcast industry.
Broadcasting between national interest and public interest is the theme of the annual general meeting. As critical stakeholders, therefore, Minister of Information Lai Mohammed, who was represented, stressed the need for the nation's media not to give room for the promotion of hatred and disunity.
At a time that our nation is facing a big challenge of insecurity and threat to national unity, divisive and hate messages, as well as misinformation being peddled by certain broadcast media constitute great risk.
We must continue to uphold the professional ethics of accuracy, objectivity, neutrality, fairness, decency in national interest.
That the federal government should develop a more proactive strategy and framework for dealing with the social media.
Addressing key problems surrounding the digital switchover project is one of the major concerns of delegates. A new leadership is expected to emerge at the end of the meeting as Sir Ibrahim bows out as Board chairman. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
Nigeria has been commended for setting the pace in good governance and socio-economic developments on the African continent, as exemplified by President Muhammadu Buhari's support and approval of the country's second peer review process. This is coming from the African Union peer review mission at the FCT town hall meeting to wrap up the validation of the country's self-assessment report. Mitaire Ikpen reports.
This is the climax of series of consultations with interest groups across the country by the African Peer Review Mission to validate Nigeria's self-assessment report in the second peer review process. The inputs here border on local government autonomy and greater recognition for the traditional institution in development processes.
The autonomy will lead to strengthening of the economic system. Then virtually there is going to be a lot of reduction in many things that border the state and to the national level.
The government of Nigeria must stand up to see that these cultural norms and values are protected.
On our part, I wish to assure you of our unreserved support toward the missions and the vision of the federal government.
The review mission believes Nigeria has come of age in promoting civil interactions for good governance.
I am from Gambia, and we all look up to Nigeria as the leader of this ECOWAS region. So, for you to be able to come together and prepare a report of this nature, I think it's highly commendable.
It is important to interact with the leaders and indigenes of this great city to get their input into the country's self-assessment report.
Further demonstrate Nigeria's commitment in promoting good governance, fostering development and sustainable economic growth.
The thematic areas of Nigeria's second peer review include democracy and political governance, economic management, corporate governance, as well as socio-economic development. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikpen, NTA News.
Latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, indicate 290 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. A breakdown indicates that the FCT recorded 127 new cases, the highest in the latest figures. Lagos follows with 45 new cases, Kaduna 28, Imo 21, Delta 18, Kwara 17, Plateau 13 and Zamfara 10. Other states with new cases are Rivers with 8 new cases, Ekiti 5 and 4 in Nasarawa. Edo and Ondo 3 cases each, Akwa Ibom 2 and a single case in Oyo State. Nigeria now has a total number of 207,210 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 194,796 have been treated and discharged. The death toll now stands at 2,742. 7th of October every year is devoted to the campaign for better working conditions for workers by the International Labour Organization, ILO, and its affiliate bodies around the world. This year, the focus is on just and decent jobs for workers in a COVID-19 pandemic. Charles Alpha reports that the Nigeria Labour Congress organized a rally at the Federal Capital Territory to mark the day.
Being the engine room of government, are on this day recognized for their immense contributions to the growth and development of any country. In fact, they are regarded as the most valuable resources for wealth creation and therefore must be of a necessity be taken care of for more impact. As part of event to mark the day, leaders of trade unions and their members took to the street to canvass better environment for workers and timely payment of pension and gratuity to retirees. The unions are worried about the enormous impact of COVID-19 and how it has affected the purchasing power of an average worker, and advocated just and decent jobs and improved health system for retirees, education for the poor, and social justice for peace and harmonious coexistence.
Workers must work with dignity. Workers must have social security cover. Workers must have adequate remuneration. And today, 30,000 cannot buy a bag of rice.
The head of service of the Federation has asked me to come and address you on this gathering, and I can assure you that she's canvassing for public servants, civil servants at every forum, and a lot of things you will see in the near future.
Over 300 million workers, report shows, were mobilized around the world to mark the World Day of Decent Work. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
You're on to the news at 10 on NTA News 24. More reports again after this break. Stay with us.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Start Times, Channel 101, Greek TV, Channel 743, GSTV, Channel 419, and Go TV, Channel 456.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Twitter at NTA News 24, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, hindsight, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith on the floor of the sports parliament. Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA. Keep a date with the parliamentarians.
Your eyes have it. Everything is architected and designed by the Almighty.
Someone who is a Christian is someone who lives a life of Jesus Christ. And the life of Jesus Christ is a life of sacrifice.
Yes.